In ancient Greek theater, catharsis was used to signify purification. Today, the word refers to the liberating effect brought forth by the expression of repressed feelings and emotions. Ethnoculture, a not-for-profit organization whose mandate is to organize ethnocultural, lesbian, bisexual, transsexual, transgender, and cross-dresser events, has chosen Catharsis as the theme for their 4th annual event to be held this weekend in Montreal. The festivities begin tonight as sexuality and ethnicity intersect at Voilà Club on the 2nd floor of the Sky Bar at 1474 St. Catherine. Both sexuality and ethnicity will be given center stage all weekend at workshops on topics such as fighting homo and other phobia in minority cultural settings and refugee services. Arts lovers will also be delighted with theater presentations and film screenings, while the community fair is certain to hold general appeal. The cultural program is open to all and is free of charge. The movies, conferences, and workshops will take place at the Université du Québec à Montréal at the Sherbrooke Pavilion, 200 Sherbrooke Street West. Catharsis is happening from May 23rd to May 25th. For detailed information, see www.ethnoculture.org. Now let's go to CUTV's Sydney Blackmore, who spoke with Alan Wong, coordinator of the event, earlier today.
So I want to get back to ethnoculture and the different organizations that you're a member of. Can you maybe elaborate on some of the different groups that are here in Montreal that you're part of?
Yeah, for sure. It's not that big a community in terms of activism at this point. I think it's a burgeoning, kind of maturing community. But so this is why I'm implicated in so many different organizations. But I guess the first organization I started getting involved with was Gay and Lesbian Asians of Montreal, otherwise known as GLAM. And this organization has been in existence probably since, I think since 1992, 1993. So we're one of the oldest, if not the oldest, ethnically based gay and lesbian organization in Montreal. And then a couple of years ago, I involved myself in a committee based in the Canadian Mental Health Association that was sort of looking to address issues of concern to ethnic and racial minorities in cultural communities. So from there, we decided to start collaborating because we had done so much networking amongst each other. We became, friends, and
it's all for the same mission in the end.
Yeah, so we just kind of ended up linking together. There were a number of different organizations. Helem, which is the Lebanese / Arab queer organization. There was Arc-en-Ciel Afrique, which is an African organization, Bispiritual, which is a Native organization, and several others. And so we got together, formed a coalition called Coalition Multimundo, which is basically uniting organizations like GLAM and Helem and other gay, lesbian, ethnic organizations, as well as their allies. We include 00, AIDS Community Care Montreal, and a few other organizations like that, who have some sort of ethnocultural mandate among our allies for this coalition as well. Kind of slowly, there's been sort of this convergence, just because so many people involved with Multimundo have also been involved with ethnoculture, which this past year has become an independent company, not-for-profit company that specializes in planning events aimed at people who identify the intersections of ethnicity and sexuality. For example, we presented at the Reasonable Accommodation Commission hearings last fall and in Montreal, and we presented a paper on sort of giving the perspectives of queer ethnic people in Montreal specifically, but sort of on a larger scale as well, since it was aimed at Quebec.
They just released the report.
They just released it. Yeah,
did you guys get a chance to see?
I have yet to read it. No, I mean they printed our. We were allowed to. Well, for one thing, the big step was actually getting accepted to present, and then they published our paper online.
And there's a synergy, I would think, that would happen as well. Different ideas from different ethnic backgrounds and different perspectives on sexuality as well.
Yeah, for sure. And that's but I think with all of us coming from that notion that we all do approach sexuality in a different way or culturally, that we can sort of understand that they are going to come. The other groups are going to come from a different vantage point as well. So, so we really do try to make space for that, because you have to, if you're gonna have a coalition like ours continue to survive, you basically have to learn from each other and try and make those compromises that
try to integrate as much as possible without taking
without losing your own organizational power or voice. But at the same time gaining new voices, into the mix and integrating those voices into your own way of thinking. So Multimundo has actually just started this past year a subcommittee called GLARE, which stands for Gay and Lesbian Action for Immigrants and Refugees. And basically, this past 6 months, there have been a few cases which have really sort of come to the fore. In Montreal specifically, one of the members of my group, Kulin, he was a South Asian gay man from Malaysia. He was deported to Malaysia after losing all of his appeals for refugee status. And so we formed the committee sort of to address those kinds of issues, because really at this point, even though a number of refugees are claiming status based on sexuality, there's no real sort of standard for the Immigration Refugee Board to assess and evaluate how people are accepted based on this particular claim. So, for example, a few people have had their claims turned down specifically because they didn't present themselves as gay enough when they were being interviewed.
Really?
Yes, they
Who
weren't.
deems that?
They weren't flamboyant. Well, the individual judge who was interviewing basically. Stereotypes,
Not necessarily everyone's going to be representative of stereotypes.
Exactly.
Clearly.
And so, and there also isn't that cultural kind of analysis for each of the individual refugees and where they come from. There isn't the gender analysis, the race analysis, the class analysis as well, because a lot of people assume that, well, Mexico has, Puerto Vallarta, so, you can just go to Puerto Vallarta where there's a lot of gay people and, there's a thriving scene there. But, if you don't have the money, then, it's hard to be able to afford to go there. And so each organization certainly does their own thing. Halem recently had an event that sort of focused on homophobia in Arab countries. Different organizations will hold different sort of functions that address different things. Arc-en-Ciel has had film nights that have screened films from Africa that deal with sexuality, or from Haiti that deal with sexuality. GLAM, we certainly we've had social events. We recently had a discussion on interracial relationships that we co-sponsored with the Nouvelle Voix project, which is aimed at collecting the stories and literary works and artistic works of the Chinese community in Montreal. So, which I'm also involved with. So, I know I am a little overextended. Actually,
great. You're an activist. You've been so for so many years.
Yeah.
Well, what do you foresee in your future? What do you hope would happen here in Montreal or maybe Quebec for these issues? Well,
it would be great to have some sort of infrastructure in place that would allow, because right now in Toronto, for example, there's some organizations which address these issues, which are funded and have regular funding and have staff, and we're all doing this on a volunteer basis. None of us are paid. There's an organization called Support Our Youth, or SOY, in Toronto, which specifically addresses issues of concern to queer refugees. And they get funding, they have a staff, and actually one of the coordinators of that group is coming up to talk at the conference this weekend. So if we can come up with something like that, and if we can somehow influence public institutions about, or raise awareness about the kinds of things that affect people like us, then obviously we've done something right, and hopefully make those kind of changes that will have a positive effect on the community.